What if the knock on Shen Yue's mansion door that night was not a friendly visit, but a turning point that would redefine her entire future? What if the people she trusted came not with comfort, but with a warning so powerful it could change the course of her heart forever? Stay with us until the very end, because what Boat and Oat told Shen Yue inside those walls was not just advice. It was a moment that forced her to choose between loyalty and destiny. And before you continue reading, ask yourself this question. If you were standing in her place, would you choose love or wisdom? Comment your answer below before the truth unfolds. The night was unusually still. Shen Yue's mansion stood quietly against the soft glow of city lights. Tall glass windows reflected a skyline that shimmered like a distant dream. Inside, the atmosphere was calm. A piano melody drifted gently through the hallway, unfinished and hesitant, just like the thoughts circling in her mind. She had been restless all evening. Something felt close. Something inevitable. Then the doorbell rang. It was not late enough to be inappropriate, but it was late enough to feel serious. When the doors opened, Boat and Oat stood there. Their expressions were not playful, not casual, not friendly, in the usual way she knew them. They were concerned. Shen Yue invited them in without a word. The living room lights were dim, casting soft shadows across marble floors and framed photographs that captured happier days. The silence between them felt heavier than any argument.
Boat spoke first.
"We did not come here to judge you." Oat followed gently.
"We came because we care about you."
Shen Yue sat across from them, her hands resting calmly on her lap, though her heart was far from calm.
"Care about me enough to do what?"
Boat leaned forward. "Enough to tell you what others are too afraid to say." The words hung in the air. There was no name mentioned, no direct accusation. But everyone in that room knew exactly who the conversation was about. The tension tightened. "You think I am making a mistake," Shen Yue said quietly. Oat's voice softened. "We think you are standing at a crossroads and pretending it is just another day." Boat's eyes did not waver. "You deserve more than uncertainty. You deserve clarity." Outside, a light wind brushed against the glass windows, almost as if nature itself was leaning closer to hear what would be said next. Shen Yue stood up slowly and walked toward the balcony. The city below sparkled, unaware of the emotional storm unfolding above it.
"You think I do not see the signs," she said.
Boat answered honestly. "We think you see them and choose to ignore them." Silence again. Oat walked closer, but kept a respectful distance. "Love should not feel like you are constantly waiting for reassurance." That sentence struck deeper than either of them expected. Because it was true. There had been moments. Small hesitations. Conversations that ended too quickly. Apologies that felt incomplete. Promises that sounded strong but arrived weak.
Boat continued.
"We have watched you defend him. We have watched you stay quiet when others questioned him. But tonight we are asking you to defend yourself." Shen Yue turned back toward them. Her eyes were not filled with anger. They were filled with conflict. "You want me to walk away?" Oat shook his head gently. "We want you to decide wisely." Boat added firmly. "Wisely does not always mean walking away. But it does mean choosing with your eyes open." The room felt smaller now. Closer. As if the walls themselves were listening. Shen Yue walked toward a shelf and picked up a framed photo. A captured memory of laughter and simplicity. A time when everything felt easier. "Do you think he does not care?" she asked softly.
Boat paused.
"Caring is not the same as commitment." Oat nodded. "And commitment is not the same as consistency." Each sentence felt like a quiet revelation. The truth was not dramatic. It was subtle, layered,
complex,
and that made it harder to ignore. Shen Yue placed the photo back down carefully. "If I choose wrong," she whispered, "I lose something important." Boat stood up. "If you choose without thinking, you might lose yourself." Those words echoed louder than anything else said that night. A long pause followed. No one rushed it. No one filled it. Because some decisions require silence before clarity. Finally, Shen Yue exhaled slowly. "What would you do if you were me?" Boat looked at Oat briefly before answering. "I would choose the path that does not make me question my worth." Oat added. And I would choose the person who chooses me without hesitation. The weight of that statement settled deeply. Outside, headlights passed along the distant road, momentary flashes of light that disappeared just as quickly. Shen Yue walked back toward the balcony. This time she did not look down at the city. She looked up at the sky. Sometimes the hardest choice is not between two people. It is between who you are now and who you are becoming. Boat and Oat watched her quietly. They had said what they came to say. The rest was no longer in their hands. Minutes passed. Then Shen Yue turned around with a new steadiness in her posture.
I needed to hear that, she admitted.
Not because I did not know it, but because I was afraid to admit it to myself. Boat's expression softened. That is why we came. Not to push you, but to remind you. Oat smiled gently. You are stronger than the fear of losing someone. You just needed to remember it. The tension in the room slowly eased, replaced with something quieter but stronger.
Clarity.
They did not ask what her final decision would be. They did not demand an answer. Because true support does not force. It strengthens. As they prepared to leave, Boat paused at the doorway. Whatever you choose, make sure it is not out of fear. Oat added. Make sure it is because it feels right for you. The doors closed softly behind them. Shen Yue stood alone in her mansion once again. But she did not feel alone. She walked back to the piano and pressed a single key. Then another. The melody that followed was no longer hesitant. It was certain. The night that began with doubt ended with resolve. And somewhere in the quiet of that mansion, a decision began forming that would ripple far beyond those walls. Now we ask you, if you were standing in that living room, hearing those words, feeling that weight, would you follow your heart or your wisdom? Comment below with what you would choose. Because sometimes the visit you did not expect becomes the moment that changes everything. Morning arrived quietly, but nothing inside Shen Yue felt quiet anymore. Sunlight filtered through the tall glass windows of her mansion, stretching across marble floors and touching the same couch where Boat and Oat had sat the night before. The room looked the same. The air felt different. She had not slept much. Not because she was confused, but because clarity can be louder than doubt. Her phone rested on the coffee table. Several unread messages waited. Some from him. Some from her team. Some from people who always seemed to know when something was shifting in her world. She picked up the phone slowly. One message stood out.
Can we talk?
Simple.
Direct. Late.
It had been sent not long after Boat and Oat left. She stared at it for a long time. Last night, she would have replied immediately. She would have called. She would have asked what was wrong. She would have tried to fix whatever tension lingered between them. But this morning felt different. Boat's words echoed quietly in her mind. Choose the path that does not make you question your worth. Oat's voice followed. Choose the person who chooses you without hesitation. Shen Yue stood up and walked toward the balcony again. The city looked brighter now. Clearer. The same skyline that had felt distant the night before now felt sharp and defined. Her phone vibrated. Another message. I am outside. Her heartbeat shifted slightly. He was here. Not a call. Not a delay. Not an excuse. Here. For a brief second, emotion tugged at her. The familiar pull. The comfort of history. The temptation to forget the questions and focus only on the feeling. But she remembered something important. Clarity is not coldness. It is courage. She walked downstairs slowly, each step steady. When the doors opened, he stood there, serious, searching her face for answers she had not yet spoken. I needed to see you, he said quietly. She nodded. And I needed time to think. There was no anger in her tone.
No accusation.
Just honesty. He stepped closer. Are you pulling away from me? She looked at him carefully. Not the version of him she once imagined. Not the version shaped by hope, but the real one standing in front of her. I am deciding, she replied. Deciding what? Whether this feels like peace or pressure. The silence between them was different from the silence she shared with Boat and Oat. This one carried uncertainty. He reached for her hand. You know how I feel about you. She did not pull away, but she did not hold on either. Feeling is important, she said softly, but effort is louder. Those words landed. He exhaled slowly, realizing this was not the same Shen Yue from weeks ago. This was someone who had listened, reflected, strengthened. Are you saying I have not done enough? She met his eyes steadily. I am saying I do not want to keep asking for reassurance. The air shifted again. For the first time, he did not rush to defend himself. He did not dismiss her concern. He simply stood there, understanding that this moment was real. I do not want to lose you, he admitted. She believed him. But belief alone was no longer enough. Then do not make me feel like I am competing with uncertainty, she replied gently. The words were not harsh. They were not dramatic, but they carried weight. He nodded slowly, absorbing every sentence. I can do better. She gave a small, thoughtful smile. Better is not promised. It is shown. The conversation did not end in a dramatic farewell. It did not explode into chaos. It settled into something quieter. A pause before the next chapter. As he walked away, she did not feel panic. She felt balance. Upstairs, the piano keys waited again. This time when she played, the melody was stronger than before. Not because she had made a final choice, but because she had finally chosen herself first. And sometimes that is where every wise decision truly begins. Now tell us, if someone showed up at your door asking for another chance, would clarity make you stay or walk away? Your answer might reveal more about you than you expect.